Hello, welcome to Integrate. I'm Rhiannon. Today I want to talk about narratives and specifically what I mean when I am talking about when I use the word narratives. So narratives are the way humans process information in a usable way. In any given moment, there's way too much going on for a human brain to process. So the way we do that is we pick and choose what's happening in the present moment, and then we overlay it with our past experiences, and then we stitch it into a coherent way so that we understand, so we have a way of understanding what's happening and also having a way to communicate to others what we think is happening. So you can think of narratives as the stories we create in our minds to make sense of our experience, feelings, and the world around us. These stories influence how we receive things and guide our beliefs. In communications, we often share these narratives to express our thoughts and emotions. It's like everyone has a personal book of stories that shapes how they see themselves and others. Understanding this helps us appreciate the power of storytelling in shaping our beliefs and how we communicate our perspectives to others. So, most of the narratives that we use, we don't even think about because they're good, they're helpful, it's what helps run our daily lives. And so using a narrative isn't a bad thing, it's just the way our minds are built. Narratives become a problem when they take on certain characteristics or fail to meet certain thresholds, though. So a narrative can become a negative narrative or a bad narrative when it's a filter that hasn't grown with you in knowledge and wisdom. So if you created a narrative, say when you were a child, on how you view the world, you might find as an adult that that narrative no longer is a sufficient way of explaining the world. And to get a better way to actually explain it, you need to expand it to your new information. And some narratives don't want to do that. And then they end up becoming a filter, just trying to justify it, and then it can really stunt your growth. Another example of a bad narrative or a negative narrative is one where you pulled information that was faulty or flawed or biased into it. So the creation of the narrative itself might have had some flaw in it that does not line up with with reality. And so then that can cause problems. Our subconscious also creates negative narratives, usually attached to our survival. So it'll take things or situations and things and be like, we don't want that, that's going to kill us. And then it's a narrative in your subconscious that's trying to protect you. But some of them sometimes, again, are not based on facts. So you might be having a narrative running in your life, trying to keep you safe that isn't actually a threat. So going with narratives, especially someone who is caught in a negative narrative, it can trigger a sympathetic nervous system response, leading to heightened stress levels, increased heart rate, and other psychological responses like the fight and flight. And then the negative narrative, in a way, becomes the story that the body responds to in facing a threat. So, as I've said in my another video, our sympathetic nervous system, if it doesn't have a reason to activate, it will look for one. And so it really likes to get into cahoots with those negative narratives because they usually are considered with something that you think is a threat, and the sympathetic nervous system wants a threat. And so they feed off of each other. So that's why it's important to recognize what a narrative is and have the ability to find and root out the negative ones or the ones that aren't serving you. So shifting and changing your narrative can really help in getting to your parasympathetic nervous system and also increasing health. So some filters or things like to look at to figure out what your negative narratives are is they often can be summed up in one sentence. Maybe you have something that repeats in your head, especially in times of trouble. If you can sum up a problem in one sentence, you might want to look at it to see if it's a narrative that needs to be let go. Negative narratives are often looking for reinforcement on the events and circumstances that are happening around it. So it's looking for reinforcement while disregarding anything that counters it or has any nuances. So if you have a negative narrative, say everything is my fault. Every situation, you will be looking for a reason to verify everything's my fault. Even if that situation has nothing to do with you, even though that situation has 20 other ways on how it's about anything else, it will look to verify and confirm whatever that narrative is. And then that's constantly, it becomes one of your filters, so then you're constantly looking for ways to resonate with it. So it usually comes up when you're troubled, hard times, hard circumstances. It's like the thing that comes up repeatedly and awesome. You can usually sum it up in one sentence. And it likes to become the explanation in every circumstance that it can, even if it doesn't have to be, and even if it's not the best explanation for that situation. So to sum it up, a narrative is just the way our brain processes information. Humans are storytellers, and we love stories, and it's just how we communicate. And that's a wonderful, beautiful thing. A negative narrative or bad narrative is a narrative that hasn't grown and changed with you or with the world, that has maybe faulty information, that is not taking in information anymore. It's not growing. It's trying to just justify its existence. So I hope that made sense. And I hope that made sense, and I will see you in another video.